Don't be.
This is Denis Dyack and Planet Gamecube. Hi, Dennis.
How are you?
Pretty good. All right, we'll just here's the whole game.
Which cameras do I look at?
We'll get set up here.
You have two faces, right?
This is like David Letterman.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, I was just asking if you had a good show. I was just, you know, not like, hey, to start the interview off, you know?
Well, no, I'm just saying. Okay, go ahead.
So are you guys all recording and everything?
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, this is, you know, recording.
I'm just going to date this. What is today's date anyways?
Today is the 18th.
Yeah.
That's our fearlessly.
I'm probably going to cut it off halfway because I need to do another interview, but, you know.
At E3 2001, you're sitting with the entire staff of Planet Gamecube, pretty much, as well as a very special guest. And if you could introduce your name and who you work for.
Hi, I'm Denis Dyack. I'm the president of Silicon Knights, and my role within Silicon Knights is director of the projects that we do. And currently, what we're showcasing today is Eternal Darkness for Nintendo GameCube, which was a new announcement as of 3 days ago. 2 days ago.
It was finally announced for the game.
Yes, it was. I know there's been a lot of rumors since. I think there's been a few press interviews that pretty much said it out loud, but didn't completely come forward. What we really wanted to do with that, and the reason all that was done, is we wanted to introduce some new things this year. I think you'll find a lot of the other hardware vendors, other first parties, are doing a lot of Me Too products. And what we did with Eternal Darkness, and the reason that we moved it over, which I know is going to be a question, so I'll answer it now. We were almost finished Eternal Darkness on the N64. And when we thought about making the transition, it was very, very difficult for us. We had a lot of positive feedback. A lot of people really liked it. And we know that some people were going to be disappointed with it. But we looked at it from an overall strategy from Nintendo in general. And we just looked at it and said, would this be better as a launch product? Imagine this as a Nintendo launch. And what a lot of people don't realize, we did not port the code for Eternal Darkness. It is rewritten from scratch, and it actually uses a subset of the 2Human engine. So if you want a slight glimpse of 2Human, you're looking at it already, and you probably didn't realize it. Well, it gives me
Comments from the forklift.
Focused on GameCube, right? Actually, at the time last year when we interviewed you, it was Dolphin. Was there a lot of backlash from the people that were looking forward to Eternal Darkness on the N64? Or was there support saying, oh cool, because you're going to bring it to GameCube, even though it was never officially announced until a couple days ago?
Well, I think there's certainly, I wouldn't call it backlash. I think there's certainly some disappointed people because they wanted to play it sooner. The bottom line, really, what I think is important is we're really focused on creating the best games possible. And although it was very difficult for us to move it, at the time, you have to understand, certainly Eternal Darkness, when we decided to write it from scratch and not port it, there were 3 or 4 months where there was nothing anyone could look at. There's a lot of nervous people, including us. And we got some mail from people saying, please don't change it. This will be one of the best N64 products ever. I saw various articles, people saying why it shouldn't be ported over to the GameCube. But at the end of the day, well, that's cool, and I think that's a valid opinion. And I hope by at least what we showed today that people see the advantages and why we did that. We're really, our job is to entertain people, and we have to do our best to entertain people as best we can. And I think Eternal Darkness having 40 to 60 hours of gameplay, which is really a 4th or 5th generation product, bringing that title on launch is pretty unprecedented. And so, you know, of course, Nintendo and Silicon Knights talked about that, and I'll answer this question too. It was a mutual decision. You know, we talked about it and said, let's do it. And for a while, Silicon Knights was in shock as well. So, you know, hope that answers the question.
How long ago technically was this decision made?
That's one of the things we're not talking about. All I can say though is that us, like everyone else, would have liked to have development systems as soon as possible. We have not had the development systems for probably as long as people think we have, and hopefully that shows how really truly easy the GameCube is. I guess programmable, or how easy it is to make a game for that system really shines by what we've got here today. We pulled significant parts out. but we also threw some really cool things in at the last minute. So it's a fun machine. We really like it.
Is there anything you're going to miss about the N64 at all?
Oh, well, certainly it was a great system. There are some things about the N64 I think are cool. However, in the face of the GameCube, I think it's pretty clear here in the show that Nintendo is, with this system, is really going to dominate the next generation. And what I think the GameCube does is really going to change the generally. Of the computer video game industry, and what the things that I really equate to this when I think about it. So yeah, I'll miss the N64, but I really love the GameCube. I'm not going to miss it too much. So it's a great system. I'm a big historical buff, and I like to study history. And I think what we're seeing here now is history repeat itself. If you look at the film industry in the 1930s. And I'm answering the same question, believe it or not. If you look at the film industry in the 1930s, the people who dominated the film industry were people who could cut the tape the best, who did all the tricks with the wires the best. These are the type of people who had people flying around on wires. People go, wow, look what they can do with film. Those people dominated the film industry. Then, around 1940s, 1950s, something happened, and what happened was. The camera became standardized, and all of a sudden all these editing techniques became available to everyone. So tools were invented, people could splice, people could cut, put sound in just like everyone else. Then what happened is an industry paradigm change occurred, and the people who used to dominate with the tricks went away, and the people who used to be able to write the good stories began to dominate, and those people are still here today. Those people like MGM, Universal, all those players are still alive today. And what's happening with the GameCube, and what's going to continue to happen now, and is with the GameCube, as you can see, hopefully by the titles on the show floor, to make graphics look good is not as difficult as it used to be. I really feel sorry for the people, first parties at Microsoft and Sony, because they still have to fight their hardware. They still have to play with wires and cut the film. With the GameCube, you can concentrate on making the content. And what I think is going to happen now, the people who are focusing on content and focusing on story are really going to start to dominate the industry. And with that kind of approach, you'll notice, despite what I think is pretty clear at this point, the GameCube is dominant as far as technology goes. So you look, I have not seen anything on the Xbox so far that can even touch what we're doing with Eternal Darkness. We never drop below 60 frames per second. There are people saying, oh, can you do volumetric fog? We're doing volumetric rolling fog. It's not even affecting the frame rate. And then I would, as an example, and I know they'll probably fix it up, and my hats are off to them, but I'm not interested in playing a game that's 4-player split screen that runs at 12 frames per second. You know, and I'm not going to mention the game, but you know, they're going to have some serious problems. They have with the PlayStation. You basically have issues with texture mapping, and so you can only fit so many textures. And obviously, hopefully you can see with Eternal Darkness, there's lots of room for texture. With the PC, you've got bottlenecks on the bus. So what happens is you get inconsistent frame rates all the time. With the way the GameCube is set up, with the MOSIS RAM and the other configurations, it's really just a well-balanced system where really you can take the system and do what you want with it. So that's where I think things are going, and so the answer to that question, this is answered.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I was too long-winded.
Eternal Darkness was at E3 99. It was here last year at E3 2000.
Yes.
And now it's here this year at E3 2001. Technically, how long has Eternal Darkness, from like early conception throughout development, how long has that been?
Well, we are actually not talking about the length of development time for our products. That's just something we stay away from. However, you can be guaranteed of several things with our development phases. The story has not changed. We have not removed anything by bringing Eternal Darkness to the GameCube. We've added substantial portions, and if anything, the game is much bigger. The vision of the game is much more fulfilled, and we really think it was a good move. You know, I wish at some stances or some circumstances that maybe we wouldn't show Eternal Darkness as much. I really think the strategy that Yamauchi-san has done from the beginning since Space World has been extremely effective. You had Sony talking about how great their system was going to be. You had Microsoft saying they're going to push 3 million polygons per second, which was pretty unreasonable. I'll put it that way. And at the end of the day, you know, just look at the systems at the show, and it's pretty clear that the GameCube can more than hold its own, if not dominate. So that period of silence can be very effective for marketing. We're really not into doing too much media, and it's not clear to me how much. We're certainly not going to do screenshot of the week. I think that's just going to bore people. I know there's some products with how many screenshots of the week they've done. If you put them all together, you can create your own little FMA of what the game's going to look like. You know, we don't want to do that. We want people to have an experience. That's why we pulled a lot of story elements out this show. We showed enough of the story last time, though what we showed is nothing compared to the entire experience. So, there you have it. There's my opinion on that. That answer the question?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, cool.
One other thing about the transition from the N64 to the GameCube, you've talked already a lot about the power of the GameCube. What about the new controller in comparison to the N64 controller? A lot of people thought that the N64 controller was like probably one of the best controllers ever, just because it was totally different. Obviously, Sega and Sony liked it because they pretty much mimicked it, and Microsoft. And then, well, now we have this brand new controller that a lot of people are just completely just don't get it. They think it's just nuts, but once you hold it, you know, at least for me personally, it's a totally different experience. What do you think? What do you think the new controller adds to the Eternal Darkness world?
Well, certainly, I would agree with many things that you said there. Particularly that the N64 controller was by far the best for its time. I was blown away when I saw the GameCube controller. I was like, wow, this is way better. And I really was concerned about what the controller was going to be, but Miyamoto-san is very focused on these issues. He's created something great. The controller itself, what have we done with it? We're scratching the surface right now, but one of the things which may not have been immediately apparent in the demo is when you squeeze the lock button, you know how you can click? If you hold the analog down and just click and not let it go, you actually cycle through the enemies in order. So you can actually, with the shifters, do different things.
Is that kind of like the Z triggering with the Z targeting with Zelda?
Yeah, it's similar to that. However, it's a bit more subtle, I guess. That was a technique that we've just recently done, and it seems to really work. It's something we didn't explain on the show floor, but it's when you pick up the game and play it. It's really important that people know what enemy they're targeting. That's a real problem with some other, games when enemies are coming at the screen. When you're in third person, targeting can be very difficult. And what I found very interesting is by highlighting the body parts, we thought we had shown that before, and I thought we had, but apparently we hadn't.
And actually, you didn't, because you showed me yesterday how to do that.
Yeah, and cool. That was a surprise for us. We didn't know that was going to be a big deal. People went, wow, you can target body parts? We're like...
Last year you could target, but they didn't highlight.
Yeah, okay.
Once you can lop off someone's head, everybody's going to go, ooh, that's cool.
Well, the interesting thing, and it's not really clear in what we're showing here, but all of the enemies, and none of which we've shown to the public at all, I really hope that people think that it's going to be mostly zombies, because they're really underestimating just as much as they've underestimated the GameCube. The enemies in that combat system are built together. So there are going to be some things that you want to use missile weapons for. You're going to want to dismember some creatures. There are going to be others you just don't want to do that. You want to handle them completely differently. And if you want to go in there brute force, that's up to you, but basically you get your ass kicked. And the other thing that's very interesting that we really haven't shown yet is there's a real coordinated combat system where enemies will work differently together in groups. So you might have basically a front line of enemies, of zombies coming at you, you're like, oh no, but that's not your biggest problem. You got to worry about what's behind them. And you really haven't shown that yet, and that's going to be very different. We think people are going to really enjoy that experience.